Well, thanks, Trudy. That was a very nice introduction. 20 years of AmeriCorps, it's kind of hard to believe for me that that amount of time has passed. I was about, 60 pounds lighter, and I had dark hair 20 years ago. I can't say it seems like only yesterday, but it was a day very similar to this day. Back in 1994, sun was shining, it was a beautiful day, and we were starting something that was really new in our state and in the country. There were fewer than 30 AmeriCorps members in the state that were sworn in that day. Fewer than 30. We just had 2 programs. That 30, that means that would be this first row, was all that was there 20 years ago. And there was supposed to be a national swearing in. I know you've got that idea here today, and this is 20 years ago. So it was like, I guess some of you are younger than 20 years. Before you were born, think of the technology that existed back then, but they had the idea that everyone was going to be sworn in by the president, President Clinton, and it was all going to be a satellite TV feed. So of course we all went into the Cultural Center. Governor's there, Senator Rockefeller is there, and of course it didn't work. Naturally, it didn't work. And so we're all kind of sitting around, waiting around, there's a blank screen, and the governor and Rachel Tompkins, the chair of the commission, and Senator Rockefeller are up on the stage, we're all twiddling our thumbs. And so Senator Rockefeller comes down to the front of the stage so he can talk to the members directly, and he started to tell stories about his days as a Vista. When he was serving in a coal camp in the town of Emmons, West Virginia, and how discouraged he got about his ability to get anything done, to make a connection with the community, that he'd come to the end of his rope and he was sitting by the railroad tracks where the coal trains came through, and he was just kind of throwing rocks and thinking that he should just get out of there because he wasn't getting anywhere. And a couple of boys came by and asked him what he was doing, and they started to talk, and that was the first real conversation that he had with people in the community about how to get things done that led to him making a real difference, that he needed to have that partnership, that respect, mutual respect with the community. Now, I heard that day, 1994, and I thought about that story a lot in the years ahead. I had never had a job at the state level before. I'm glad to hear that Trudy thought I made a good impression on my interview, but I wasn't sure if I could do it, quite frankly. Of course, that's something that you kind of keep to yourself. I didn't say anything like that to her. But no one could really tell me what to do or how to move forward because it was a new thing. No one knew, all the way up to Washington. They were building on past models. Back in the 30s, there was the CCC, where they fielded millions of people to work in the environment. Back in the 60s, there was the Peace Corps, but it all had been controlled by Washington. So they were going to try something new. They were going to see if they couldn't be in really close partnership with the state, and that the states would decide what they wanted to do with the money also. So we were really flying by the seat of our pants, building the plane as we were flying it. So as AmeriCorps grew, though, we took advantage of every opportunity that we had for resources, for more dollars, because we knew we had as much a right to them as anybody else in the country, and just as much need. So an example of that has been mentioned here, that after that first swearing-in ceremony, we applied for some extra money for part-time summer programs. There were a lot of kids in the state that really depended on summer lunch in order to eat, and then school lunch. But then in the summer, they really didn't eat very well. And WVU Extension had the idea that we didn't need to leave that money on the table that no one was using, and that we could really feed children and keep up their reading skills at the same time. They tried it in 2 schools and thought they could use AmeriCorps to expand. So we applied to have 80 members in 8 schools. And we got to be finalists, and they made us go to Washington personally to plead our case. They were really they wanted to give this money only to people that could really get things done, and they weren't too sure about us. So we went in there, and they were extremely skeptical that we could pull it off, that we could find 80, I don't know if they thought that we didn't have people in college or what they were thinking, but they just didn't think we could find 80 people in the southern coal fields who would want to spend their summers helping young kids. And Ruth Ellen Phillips and I went out of that meeting and said, we're not going to get that money. I know we're not going to get that money. But they decided to take a chance on us. At that time, we didn't have a track record. And so, lo and behold, Energy Express has become the model summer program for the whole country. And as Sherry was saying, it fields up to 500 college students a year in the summer, and works with more than 3,000 young West Virginians to make sure they eat there. So we had an uphill battle back then to disprove some West Virginia stereotypes, and we also knew that as a small state, as a rural state, often, we're behind the door when the money is handed out in Washington. It's kind of an afterthought that all the states had to get something, but they didn't really expect very much from us. And so we began to surprise them when year after year, we not only did great with our formula programs. All the states get a formula, and that's what it's for, so that no one will feel left out. But there's also that competitive pool out there where only the best programs in the country are approved for that. And every year we got way more than our share of competitive money, and we still do, because you all are the best of the best, basically. You've competed successfully nationally year after year after year, and it just gladdens my heart to see it. So we never turned down an opportunity to try something else, because we always thought there could be dollars attached, and while you may be sitting there hoping that you're going to get a chance to get up off that hard stairs, but the fact that you're sitting on the stairs means that we don't have to pay 50 cents a chair for our chairs. So, we've been very frugal with our money over the years. While you may be worried that you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing or how you're going to do it, I can tell you that I learned that being in at the beginning of something is a fabulous, fabulous opportunity. When you're in at the beginning, the expectations are vague, no one knows what's possible, and people are always lenient when you make mistakes. And as an AmeriCorps member, you can say you're new, you can keep that going on for your whole first year of service probably, so you're just new here, and so you made a mistake. It's very liberating to be told to go and figure something out on your own, because it means that your boss doesn't know how to do it either. And you can quickly become the expert then. It's always better to go first. You know how when you're in a meeting or an AmeriCorps meeting and they say, who wants to go first, who wants to give the first presentation? You always go first, because then you don't have anybody to compare yourself to, so you always get a really good round of applause. That's been my motto. My motto has always been to make a lot of mistakes fast. That's the thing. Make your mistakes, make them fast, and constantly ask others how you can be doing things better. We grew quickly in West Virginia because we leveraged the resources we had by working together. One of my most stalwart partner was my federal partner at the Corporation for State Office, Judith Russell. And we kind of considered ourselves the Thelma and Louise of national service, because we were always ready to drive off a cliff to see what would happen, basically. But Judy's motto was, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And so you really had to get out there to try things, to work with other people, and to be out there to ask, because that's where the really competitive ideas and the new fun stuff comes from. So collaborate, partner, share, align your efforts with others. Don't worry about looking dumb, because I'm sure my older colleagues can say you're going to keep doing dumb things until the day you die. So don't worry about that. The thing to worry about is not making mistakes, but what you learn from those mistakes. And there you have to set it up right from the beginning, ideally. And that would mean tomorrow, when you go to your service site, how are you going to set up a system colleagues, your fellow members and your supervisors, but members of the community who are going to help you learn fast from your mistakes, because that's how you're going to get really good, really fast. It worked for me. You don't get the chance to start a new program like AmeriCorps very often, and I'm very grateful that I had that experience in my life. But what I've learned during the last 20 years is that no matter what kind of organization you're in, you can always make a new beginning somewhere. You can always start something new. You can find a new angle by finding a new partner, a new collaborator, a new way of looking at things. Energy Express used money that was there for anybody to use, but nobody else wanted to take the trouble to figure out how to use it. And one of your programs, LifeBridge, was one of those first two programs that was here that day 20 years ago. It was called the Community Service Council of the Kanawha Valley. And over the last 20 years has evolved and changed and dropped things, has added things, but it's still here providing service. AmeriCorps is not the kind of program that you get on the dole, so to speak, and then you have a program forever. You have to perform every year. You're never guaranteed of funding, and LifeBridge is a good example of an organization that has revisioned and revisited itself and evolved so that it continues to produce results for West Virginia 20 years after that very first fall day when the first AmeriCorps members came on board. So it's in those edges that the opportunities exist, where the most learning is, and actually also where the most fun is. So I can't tell you how proud I am to think that we've gone from 1 row to 15 rows of AmeriCorps members, and to see you all ready to start your year of service, because the part I played in bringing you here is something that has brought me among the greatest satisfaction of my whole life. So thank you on behalf of Jean Ambrose, citizen, for all you're going to do this year for West Virginia and for our country. And so with that, as we turn from our stroll through the past and want to now look into the future, let me bring Stephanie Yu back to the podium, someone whom we have been very blessed to have here in our state with AmeriCorps and National and Community Service.